Welcome all to this fierce show of resistance to Governor Rauner's slash and burn budget that was revealed yesterday. This budget is a living monument to the failed trickle-down policies of Reagan and Bush, and deliberately excludes the 99% of working families who, unlike him, don't own multiple luxury homes or hide their fortunes in foreign countries. 30 degrees below zero is not enough to keep us from uniting in our common fight for real revenue solutions that invest in our communities, not cuts that would destroy them.
We're here today to show our gazillionaire Governor Rauner the impact of his proposed cuts and a better way forward. Yesterday, Rauner proposed a staggering $6.7 billion in cuts to working families. This budget doesn't trim the fat of state government, it cuts limbs. It will harm working families and the middle class just as they begin to emerge from the recession caused by the reckless greed of people like Rauner himself. We're going to learn more about those people today, those people who actually caused the budget mess and who really need to make it right. So before we hear from a series of powerful testimonials, we're going to dive into the root causes of this crisis and learn how we can take back Illinois. And to do this, I'm going to present Matthew Luskin, an organizer with the Chicago Teachers Union, to break down what's really going on in this state. Matthew.
How is everybody? Good morning, sisters and brothers. It's cold out there. That's right, it's not going to stop us, right? It's colder than the governor's heart. Colder than the schools they closed down here in the city, right? The pastor over here told me today that he thought this was God telling us what these budget cuts mean for our communities. And I'll tell you, the cold weather in Chicago, we're used to that, right?
Get someone to hold this near Matthew if we can't see it.
Hell, though, when we can't come out and fight like this. So CTU, the Chicago Teachers Union, we're proud to be here with a few hundred of our closest friends who are ready to get out there and understand it's going to take a movement. When it comes to budgets, we get told all the time that budgets are just for the experts, right? That we can't understand this stuff, that it's too complicated for us. We don't accept that. Budgets, these aren't a law of gravity. This isn't something that just fell from the sky. This isn't something that was handed down by God. It is not a law of gravity that when they say there's no money, the only way to fix it is by taking from our children and taking from our seniors. We don't accept that, right? So now this stuff can be complicated, and we try not to dumb it down. We say we can actually talk this through and learn about it. And here's what I find. I'm not an expert on budgets, but when you really look at these things and you try to understand who wins and who loses, who profits and who pays, who made it this way and who could unmake it, well, that's empowering for people on our side of the fight. That we don't have to just throw our hands up and say we can't understand this. We can get out there and take a stand. Folks with me? So we're going to do a quick exercise. Where's our 6 volunteers who are coming up here with me? We got a couple folks? These 6 people, they represent everybody in America. Everybody in America. Here's the bottom 20%. Here's the next 20% in terms of income. Here's the middle 20%. Oh, we're getting near the top. Miss Donna, you are the wealthiest 20%. And Ellison, my friend, you are the top 1% of all Americans. Now, let's take a look at what's been happening with income. Our bottom 20%, can you take 2 steps forward? This is showing what percentage changes we've seen in the last 3 decades on income inequality in this country. Now, let me tell you, these numbers are even worse if you look just at Illinois. She actually would have had to take steps backwards, except she would have tripped over the stage. Our next 20%, I'm sorry, did I do this wrong? Our middle 60, you 3, together, combined, you guys get to take 4 little steps forward. Why don't you guys come up the middle aisle? You got space for 4 steps? So the middle 60%, the majority of Americans, have only taken 6 steps. One more of you. Yeah? Here's our wealthiest 20%. you're going to come over here. Our wealthiest 20%, they got to take 6.5 steps forward. So go ahead, take 6.5 steps forward, get up ahead of those folks. But that's nothing. When you break out that top 1%,
give me all your money.
28 steps down the aisle, my friend. 28 steps. Now, the one good thing about this is he's going to march right out of this room, and we're not going to have to see him again. 28 steps. Keep going, Ellison. Our top 1% is out of here. And if you guys look at the slide that I've now completely destroyed. Yo, can somebody help me? All right, well, if I knew how to fix this slide, what you would see is it's not just that his income has been shooting up through the roof, it's actually that his share of taxes have been dropping and dropping and dropping, and we've been watching this for years. So income has gone up for the wealthy, while the share of taxes that they're paying in our communities has dropped and dropped and dropped. And when their taxes drop, who does that fall on? It falls on the rest of us, right? Now, this isn't just for the wealthy. This also happens with their corporations, too. So if my volunteers can come back over here. That's great. If we could just go to the next slide. Can I get 4 more people to join me real quick? You guys can ditch your signs. Throw them down here. 5 of you over here, 5 of you over here. This is the split in taxes paid versus individuals versus corporations. Here's the corporations, here's individuals in America. In 1938, this is what it looked like. Half of the taxes were being paid by corporations, half by the people. 1978, guess what? 2 of you, come over here. By 1978, only 30% of the taxes are being paid by corporations. And by 2010, just a few years ago,
2 more.
the corporations, this is it. 10% of the tax burden is being felt by them, 90% of it by individuals. Is this fair?
No.
All right, you guys can all sit down. Thank you. So here we are in an era of soaring, thank you, you guys. In an era of soaring corporate profits, yet they're not paying their fair share, right? And it's not just that they're not willing to pay their fair share, it's that even that little bit of tax burden that is still on them, they're finding loopholes to get out of it. There was a study done last year showing $183 billion being lost every year to offshore tax shelters, right? These exotic tax shelters in other countries, so corporations based in this country aren't paying taxes on their profits. This guy, just in Illinois, $8.5 billion in tax revenue lost in 1 year to corporate tax shelters. This is enough to patch the budget deficits that Illinois has faced. This is equal to about $1,400 per Illinois resident in terms of our tax burden and tax filers, right? That's what that would work out to. This is enough to fix these budgets. So do we have a choice on how we look at budgets, or do we just have to cut? We got choices. Maybe people have heard about these toxic swaps. You know, these corporations, it wasn't enough for them to not pay their fair share and then dodge what was left. What they've then been running around is privatizing everything that's left in the government so they can make a buck off of that, and then forcing us to borrow. If the state is broke and has no money coming in, we have to borrow, right? And who do we borrow from? From the rich, from the banks. So they don't pay their taxes, leaving us broke. We then borrow from them, and what happens when you borrow money? You pay interest. So they get to profit off of us being broke. There's been these scams on top of it, things like the toxic interest rate swaps. These are scams where banks have come, and you've got this on your handout. Banks sold the state a set of deals where they it's a set of bets, a set of side bets, where they told the state, you pay us every month, cut us a check at a fixed interest rate, and we'll cut you a check every month on a variable interest rate that goes up and down, right? And the state made a bet that it'll go up and down, but these things will stick around each other. The banks, it's now come out, actually lied to the state and in fact told governments around the country that there were no risks to these deals. But what really happened with interest rates? They went down, 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 right? When the banks crashed the economy and we bailed them out. And so the difference between those two numbers, the difference between those low interest rates that banks are paying on these bets and the high rates that we're stuck in as taxpayers, that's all bank profit. I just want to give you a sense of what this is costing the state of Illinois. Banks have already taken $550 million in profits off of these deals from the state of Illinois. But we have no choice but to cut, right? They're expected to take another $460 million. We're talking over $1 billion off of these rip-off deals that the state has made. And now it's hard to get your head around numbers like this sometimes. So we wanted to break it down for one clear example. Bank of America, we all love them, right? So, Bank of America has a set of these deals with the state of Illinois, our schools, and the city. There's rip-off toxic swaps just with the state of Illinois. Bank of America has taken $120 million in profit. They're expected to take a total of $337 million. Last year alone, $18 million in profit that they walked off from with the state. What does that mean? What does that money add up to? $18 million, 1 year of Bank of America's profits on these deals would be enough to restore all of Rauner's proposed cuts to the AIDS Drug Assistance Program, all of his proposed cuts to the breast and cervical cancer program. Now, which is more important? What should be a priority for our state? Bank of America or health care in our communities? Who's heard about this campaign for a Southside Trauma Center? We're told we can't afford it. It would be too expensive to provide top quality trauma care for black people on the south side of Chicago. That's what we've been told. But 1 year of Bank of America's profits on this deal could pay for that trauma center on the south side of Chicago. The losses we've had to Bank of America so far, their total winnings on these bets, would pay for home care services for the next year for 7,000 seniors in Illinois, an entire year of services. Meanwhile, Rauner tells us we have no option but to cut them out of the program. And their total profits off of this deal would be enough to address the entire child care crisis that we've been told there's nothing we can do. $300 million the child care assistance program is short. Our hands are tied. How can we fund it? It turns out the way we could fund it is Bank of America alone. So we are losing all of these things in this state. We are threatened with losing them to pay this man, Tim Maloney, the Illinois president of Bank of America. One man's corporation profits could protect any or all of those programs. But they're not the only one. All of these banks have deals like this with the state of Illinois, and we're only looking at one set of toxic deals here. This is just the toxic swaps. There's all kinds of other ways that they're making money at our expense. People with me so far? So this budget crisis, it's not just on us. We didn't make this up. It's not because they spent too much on our children and our seniors, on our workers, and on our communities, right? It's because we've got a wrong set of priorities in this state. And the question becomes, what are we going to do to fix it? And I think a key point everybody should walk out of here understanding is we're going to fight against these cuts. But the only way we are going to be able to protect quality health care and quality schools, quality child care and quality services in our communities, the only way we're going to have safe streets and a real voice in this state is if we make the wealthy pay their fair share. There's no way around this. So are there options? Let's talk about a couple of options before we wrap up here. A millionaire's tax. There's one. Who went and voted in the last election? We voted on this question already. 64% voted yes on taxing millionaires to improve our schools in this state. Over 2 million voters said yes. We should tax the rich in the state of Illinois. We are one of only a few states in this country that have a flat tax, where it doesn't matter whether you make $10,000 a year or $80 million like our governor, you pay at the same tax rate. That is wrong, 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 right? if we had the same tax rate for our wealthiest citizens that the state of Oregon had, it would almost double our state's budget in the next year. We need this. A financial transaction tax. Sometimes people call this the LaSalle Street tax. People know what's over on LaSalle Street, right? This is where the banks are based. This is the Wall Street of Chicago, right? People call it the Robin Hood tax sometimes. This is a tax that on these arcane, complicated, high-speed trading, speculation, bets that the banks are making with each other, these Wall Street corporations, you could tax them at 0.01%, right? 1% of 1%. 1 penny on every $100 of value of these things, and raise enormous sums of money for our state. Hundreds of millions, some estimates put it as high as tens of billions. And this is money that is right now purely flowing to these financial sector corporations. Out of our communities, they're not paying taxes. The Chicago Mercantile Exchange threatened to leave the state and got $77 million in tax breaks from us, out of our pockets, right? Despite the fact that they made $2 billion in profits. $2 billion in profits. It's our turn. We actually need a tax that takes from the wealthy and gives to our communities. This is another way we could do it. So we just want to wrap this up by saying this is a choice for us, right? These cuts are not forced on us. Every cut that comes, we should be clear, every cut, it's not that their hands are tied. It's not that they're being responsible. Every cut that they make is a way of avoiding taxing millionaires. Every cut that they make is to protect their friends on Wall Street and LaSalle Street. Every cut to our families, to our neighborhoods, to working class communities, every cut is about protecting power for those who already have it in the state and leaving us dry. So we need to put demands on Rauner, and we need to put demands on Bank of America, too, to pay back that $119 million they've taken from us. And we've got to keep pushing this across the city and across the state. Sisters and brothers, thank you. I hope this was helpful as a start to our day.
So how many people learned something new just now from Matthew? Yeah. It's important information that we don't know, and they don't want us to know, right? They want us to fight each other. Like, my cuts matter more than yours. My money, my services matter more than yours. And while we're all fighting, who's walking away with all the dollars, right? So this is really important information for us to know, because it's clear that big banks and the rich have steadily taken out of the system instead of putting back in like they're supposed to, leaving us, working families, left with all the burden. And again, like Matthew talked about, Bank of America alone has stolen $119 million. That's why we're going to visit them after this, after the rally today, because they need to know that this is not okay. We're going to push. If our governor's not going to push against the banks, we certainly will, and we're going to keep fighting and fighting until they actually have to respond, because it's not okay. They keep taking our dollars and leaving us with, again, billions in dollars in cuts. So, are we going to fight? When they say cut back, we say? When they say cut back, we say? When they say cut back, we say?
Next, we're going to hear from community leaders who will share a bit about the impact of this budget on our families and our communities. As a nursing home worker myself, I know that Governor Rauner's budget would devastate our facilities and programs that care for our seniors and patients. We are facing a $250 million Medicaid cut, which would disproportionately hurt high Medicaid facilities, threatening the quality of care that seniors and people with disabilities rely on, and it's simply not right. As a working mom with 3 young children, I'm also concerned about Governor Rauner's proposal to cut millions from the Child Care Assistance Program. I work a full-time job, and I need my job, and I need child care to, watch after my children while I'm at work. And the child care provider that I have right now, I trust her with my life because she takes good care of my kids. And if I can't have child care to help me take care of my children while I'm at work, then that means that I can't feed my kids. That means I will have to quit my job. And that means that not only will it affect me, but it'll affect my child care provider. She uses that money to care for herself as well and her family. So, and the truth is that Governor Rauner made a choice to keep giving breaks to millionaires and billionaires, which is not right. That's banks and corporations, while hurting working class family like mine and yours. To make sure we can hear from everyone today, we're going to have to time these statements and keep it to 1 minute apiece. Is that okay? Great. So our first leader from Chicago Coalition for the Homeless is Ms. Flora Koppel.
Hi there. We all have to comment on the weather. It's record lows in terms of the weather outside and record lows in terms of the values of the budget. I work for Unity Parenting Counseling. I'm executive director, and I'm representing the Coalition for the Homeless, particularly our youth committee, which I've been a member of for 33 years, and we include 30 agencies from everywhere in the state, because people think homeless youth is an urban problem. It's urban, it's suburban, and it's rural. It's everywhere. I have to comment on this. We're paying for tax shelters, but we're cutting the shelters for homeless adults and youth throughout the state of Illinois, and we can't let that happen. That's not written down, but it just hit me. Governor said that he would protect the state's most vulnerable citizens, and he made a mockery of that statement with this budget. I represent particularly talking about the cuts to homeless services, which include supportive services, emergency shelters, and I'm focusing on homeless youth. And when we talk about homeless youth, we're not talking about the myriad of children that are living in the streets with their parents or in shelters. I'm talking about the teens and young adults who do not have parents taking care of them, who do not have any caring adults taking care of them, and who are living unaccompanied on the streets. Oh, my goodness. There was a $3.1 million cut to that budget, which leaves us to $2.5 million, and we will be eliminating 1,300 beds from a system that already has waiting lists of over 500 at almost every youth-serving agency. Real fast, I just have to say this, that this is transition-age youth, and transition means they can go this way or they can go that way. Our programs have helped them move from homelessness into being successful parents, finishing high school, entering college, having a job, and they've gone this way, but they can go the other way. Just last statement, I promise, is actually that we're saving money today this much, and we're writing a check for the future where these youth will be costing us a lot of money in prisons, dead, in homeless shelters for the rest of their lives. And we've got to say something and do something. Thank you.
So next we have Ms. Carrie Kaufman from Adapt Home Services Program.
Good morning, thanks everybody for being here. My name is Carrie, and I'm here as a representative from Chicago Adapt, and I'm a consumer of home services. I have a PA or several PAs who, between them, come help me for 8 hours a day. So they help me basically do absolutely everything I need to do in my life. I work a job at Access Living. I volunteer with several community-based grassroots organizations, and I have a social life and family, and so it's very important for me to be independent, and these services make that possible for me. And it's also, gives an amazing job to folks who want to help people be independent in their own homes. Yes. And I'm here today because my disabled brothers and sisters should be living in their own homes and not in nursing homes, and getting the care that they need and want and can control and dictate, and that will cost the state less than putting us in beds in nursing homes.
Woo! Thank you, Carrie. Next, we'll have a parent who needs child care from Fight for 15, Ms. Sonia Acuna.
Hola, mi nombre es Sonia Acuña. Soy madre de 5 hijos y estoy aquí representando a las mujeres trabajadoras de Illinois y a toda la familia que estamos aquí luchando por nuestros hijos y nuestra familia, y no es justo que el nuevo gobernador nos esté poniendo obstáculos para seguir adelante con nuestra familia y nuestros hijos, porque ganamos muy poco y no es justo que nos aumenten el cuidado de nuestros niños. Nosotros necesitamos tener ese cuidado de nuestros bebés para seguir adelante con nuestra familia. Gracias, que Dios los bendiga.
So I'm going to translate in English what Ms. Sonia Acuna said. She said, "Hi, my name is Sonia Acuna, and I'm a mother of 2 young daughters and a McDonald's worker. I'm here to represent all the working mothers and family of Illinois' 100,000 plus that are being affected by the governor's cut. We as mothers depend on child care to be able to work to take care of our families. Because of the cuts to child care, I know a lot of mothers that can no longer afford child care or that have to make really hard decisions about how they will pay for it. I actually can't afford it. For my daughter right now, so I can't imagine how difficult it must be for any parent to pay child care with prices that increase. Governor Rauner shouldn't be making it harder for working families like myself to get ahead. We need to be able to take care of our kids and have a good job. We need affordable child care, not cuts to make it harder for us to find safe and reliable space to leave our children."
Sí se puede, sí se puede, sí se puede. All right. So next I want to bring up a longtime champion for working families, and that's Reverend Curtis DeYoung from the Community Renewal Society. Reverend.
Good morning. I interpret the budget through the lens of the faith community. From this perspective, the budget is a moral document. It defines and determines our moral priorities and our values. The scriptures state that government and we as individuals will be judged by how we treat the vulnerable and marginalized in society. Both Martin Luther King and Jesus said that governments are judged by their concern for the least of these. The budget presented by Governor Rauner fails the moral test of what is required of our state government. Rather than protecting, sustaining, and empowering persons who find themselves poor and homeless, this budget dismantles what little support systems they have. The budget cuts child care and higher education, job training and anti-violence programs, mental health and human services funding, and slashes Medicaid funding for families and seniors living in poverty. This budget hurts the most vulnerable. Therefore, according to the scriptures of the major world religions, the budget presented by Governor Rauner is an immoral document. And an immoral document leads to devastating ends. We must change this budget.
Next, we have a young lady from Grow Your Own, Ariel Gowder from Action Now.
Good morning. Can you guys hear me? Okay. My name is Ariel Gowder, and I am a Grow Your Own teaching candidate. Since my days of attending school in the Auburn-Gresham neighborhood, I've always loved education, and it has come naturally to me. The GYO program supports my goal of staying in Chicago and teaching in neighborhoods that so many of us call home. GYO is putting me on a path to become a teacher in CPS. I know from personal experience why it's important for women and men of color to become teachers. My 4th grade teacher, Ms. Barber, made a big impression on me. I looked to the front of the classroom and saw someone who looked like me. She looked like the women in my family and community that I loved and respected. She showed me it was possible for kids like me to grow up and be like her. I want all kids to have a Ms. Barber. The GYO program will make it possible for a kid to one day recall the impact that Ms. Gowder had. If early childhood and K-12 education is a priority for this governor, then funding a program that trains high-quality teachers of color needs to be a priority as well. If I am left to wonder who he wants to teach in these classrooms, who does he want educating our kids? Gutting GYO takes away an opportunity for people like me to reach a lifetime goal. It's disappointing that the governor is proposing to eliminate a proven program that diversifies our teaching force and provides low-income students with role models from the community like the one I had. We have already had 50 schools closed on us. This is not the time to gut more educational programs. It is the time for us to get off the sidelines and fight back.
Next, I want to bring up Ana Laura Lopez from Mujeres Latinas.
Hola a todos, buenos días. Mi nombre es Ana Laura López. El año pasado, soy una trabajadora inmigrante. El año pasado, después de haber sido despedida, llegué a las Mujeres Latinas en Acción. Y ahí mi vida comenzó a cambiar. Y se preguntarán por qué comenzó a cambiar. Porque me di cuenta del valor que tengo como mujer, del potencial que tengo como mujer y del poder que tenemos las mujeres inmigrantes. Ahora soy miembro del grupo de liderazgo para latinas de Mujeres Latinas en Acción. Mujeres Latinas provee servicios cruciales para mujeres en Chicago y suburbios, incluyendo programas de combate a la violencia contra mujeres. También promueve entrenamiento para empresarias y promueve la ciudadanía. Personalmente, el programa de liderazgo para latinas me ha ayudado a crear confianza en mí misma y reconocer las acciones que quiero tomar para crear cambio en mi comunidad. Los recortes al presupuesto que propone el gobernador Rauner para los servicios a inmigrantes ponen a riesgo los programas que ayudan a nuestras familias inmigrantes. Los programas que ofrece Mujeres Latinas en Acción, incluyendo el de liderazgo, los talleres de ciudadanía y recursos para mujeres sobrevivientes de abuso sexual y violencia doméstica, reciben ayudas a través de este fondo. Con estos recursos, los inmigrantes como yo podemos cambiar nuestras vidas y participar en la vida cívica de nuestras comunidades. Por este motivo, exhortamos al gobernador Rauner y a nuestros legisladores a no cortar estos servicios cruciales para todos los inmigrantes. Y sí se puede, compañeros, sí se puede.
Hello, good morning. My name is Yadira Sanchez. I'm a domestic violence advocate with Mujeres Latinas en Acción. And I'm here representing Ana Laura Lopez. So I'm going to start off. My name is Ana Laura Lopez, and I am an immigrant worker. Last year, after being fired from my job, my life changed the moment that I went to Mujeres Latinas en Acción. I started the Latina Leadership Program at Mujeres Latinas en Acción. Mujeres provided me crucial services for immigrant Latinas and families in Chicago and in the suburbs, including programs that combat violence against women, provide training for business owners, and promote citizenship. The Latina Leadership Program has helped me develop confidence in myself and helped me recognize the actions I want to take to create change in the community. Governor Rauner's cut of the immigrant services line item puts immigrant families at risk. Our programs, including the Latina Leadership Program, citizen workshops, and resources for immigrant survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault that receive funding from this source. With these resources, immigrants like myself can change our lives and participate in civic life for our communities. We ask Governor Rauner and our legislators not to cut these crucial services for immigrants. And sí se puede.
So next I want to bring up Pat Kanazi, a leader with the Chicago Teachers Union. Pat.
Good morning, good morning. I am a worker first. I'm a woman, I'm a worker first. And our fight is billionaires versus workers. And we should never ever forget that. Billionaires versus workers. We pay our taxes, we pay into our pensions, but then when it's time to collect your pension, and I've been collecting my pension now from the Chicago Teachers Pension Fund for almost 8 years. But each year, the healthcare subsidy goes down, and it goes down. So my question is, where is the money? Where is the money? Where is the money? Our huge issue is that we work and we do what we're supposed to do, but when it comes time to reap the benefits, they say, those greedy teachers. Well, I'll have you to know that we have teachers who are actually on pensions who have to ask the Chicago Teachers Pension, the Retired Teachers Association for a subsidy so that they can have food at the end of the month. I don't think that's why we became teachers. We certainly didn't become teachers in order to get rich. So I say to you, it's workers against the billionaires. It's workers against the billionaires. Never give up the fight, never give up the fight. And I'd like to say to the sister, the young sister that I just saw, who was just speaking 2 or 3 people ago, who is in the GO program or something, you young lady, it's a noble and honorable profession. And Jackie Vaughn said during the 1987 strike, just because you elected to become a teacher, you didn't take an oath of poverty. So let's keep that in mind. You didn't take an oath of poverty. So stand up for health care, stand up for education, stand up for our children, stand up for our elderly. Workers unite and workers stand up.
Our next speaker is from Illinois Alliance for Retired Americans, Ms. Katie Jordan.
Good morning, warriors. There's nothing in this speech that I can tell you that you don't already know, but we are here just to share what we know and to act upon it. As you know, the banks and the wealthy help create Illinois' budget crisis. They are the ones who need to help solve it. To move Illinois forward, we need a progressive revenue solution that make big banks and the super rich pay their share, not crippling cuts to public service of working families depend upon. There is virtually no program or community that won't be hurt and devastated by Governor Rauner's agenda, whether it's cuts to child care and higher education, job training and anti-violence programs, mental health and human service funding, investments in our state's infrastructure, or slashing Medicaid funding for families and seniors living in poverty. Romney wants to balance the budget on the back of low-income children, seniors, single moms, adults with disabilities, and low-wage workers, without even trying to find effective ways to raise revenue for wealthy individuals like himself, or close corporate tax loopholes that could raise billions of dollars to help working families. A millionaire tax, a 3% tax on incomes over $1 million would generate $1 billion a year. If all this money was spent on public education, this would translate $550 per student statewide. The millionaires who would be impacted make up just 0.2% of the Illinois population. Yet they just benefited the most when our income tax was rolled back on January the 1st. We call upon Governor Rauner to work constructively with the state legislatures and all vested partners to resolve our state fiscal crisis with a focus on protecting our state's most vulnerable people, crafting a responsible budget that lessen the most severe cuts, but also raising new revenue from a fair, equitable, and effective system. This is the leadership that Illinois families desperately need and expect of Governor Romney. Romney got the exact budget he wanted. He campaigned on slashing $2 billion in this year's budget alone, and another $4.5 billion every year thereafter without proposing any resolution to Illinois' funding crisis. Governor Rauner, a billionaire himself with 9 mentions, and I would suggest that Governor Rauner probably owns about 30 bathrooms in these 9 mentions, I suggest he flush his budget down one of those toilets. He must be accountable, for he simply cannot wash his hands of our current budget crisis. Because what we are going to do and what we want him to know, that we will not tolerate no more budget tricks and lies. Give our people better lives. Worker power is on the rise. Now it's time for us to organize, and let's get out there and do it.
All right. We're getting fired up. Won't take it no more. We're fired up. All right, I want to next introduce Pastor Fred Kinsey from One North Side to talk to us about the need for revenue. Pastor.
Hi, I'm Pastor Fred Kinsey from Unity Lutheran Church, and I'm a leader at One North Side. I'm here to tell the truth that the seed of the greed has a need here in Illinois. It's making us bleed. Any of you feeling that out there? And all these stories we've heard today, they're bearing witness to the truth of this budget of destruction we have. You all know as well as I do that Illinois does not have a spending problem. What we have is a revenue problem. Did you know that Illinois corporations pay no corporate income tax in Illinois? Is that fair? No way. It's time for our elected leaders to close the tax loopholes. It's time for our elected leaders to pass a millionaire's tax. And it's time for our elected leaders to pass a tax on the high-speed trading that's happening at LaSalle Street. And it's time for our elected leaders to make the big banks pay their fair share. Now, Governor Rauner is choosing to close daycare centers and to gut retirees' health care systems instead of raising fair and progressive income tax from those who can pay more. So here's the truth. The seed of the greed is a need for more, always more, even when it makes the 99% bleed. We must go to the halls of Springfield, and we must go to our legislators' offices, and we must take our message for revenue to all of our communities. We must take it to the streets. It's time for big banks and big corporations, for LaSalle Street and the 1% to pay their fair share. Are you with me? Let's do it.
All right. I want to bring up, there are 2 really great elected officials in the room. They've been longtime champions for working families here in Chicago. And I want to introduce the first to speak, and that's somebody who's been a champion for the last 30 years. Please join me in welcoming Cook County Commissioner Jesus Chuy Garcia. I want to invite David Orr to also come up as well. Chuy.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. To all of the gathered social service warriors here who truly care about human rights and about dignity, I say to you, I join you in keeping Illinois a state that provides dignity for all of its people. Now that we have seen that Governor Rauner indeed had an agenda for Illinois and that he's made his first public budget statement, we know what it's all about. And we unequivocally say, Governor Rauner, you get an F for your first attempt at putting forth a budget for Illinois. I address you today not as an elected official, but a concerned citizen, a resident of a low-income working-class community in one of Chicago's neighborhoods. And we tell Governor Rauner today that what you have proposed is intolerable. This is the land of Lincoln. This is not a Confederate state that is seeking to keep people in poverty. that attacks everyone, from healthcare to transportation to education and public safety. Illinois is a state known for compassion. Illinois is a state that has embraced diversity. Illinois is a microcosm of the rest of the country, and we will not let the clock be turned back on our state or on America. The benefits that people have become accustomed to in this day and age represent a civilized society. The budget proposal turns the clock back and threatens thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands and millions of people in Illinois. The responsible thing for Governor Rauner to do is to go back to the desk and take another crack at it. In addition to that, we call on the state legislature to assume its role in checking the governor, ensuring that you stand for the people who stand to lose the most from this budget proposal. That means that families with autistic children, that homeless youth, that refugees, that hungry families, that all of the frontline providers who are seeking to keep the city a place where everyone can have a chance at a life with dignity has to be rethought. Governor Rauner, you were elected governor of the state of Illinois. You have a responsibility to respond to the needs of the most vulnerable populations, to the poor, to working people, people struggling, working 2 and 3 jobs to make ends meet. The budget outline that you have shared with us turns the clock back. It is essential that you understand that what Illinois needs is not deep cuts of the nature that you have set forth. What Illinois needs is a responsible revenue plan to ensure that we keep Illinois a place that is welcoming, that provides dignity, and that ensures the livelihood of everyone, especially the most vulnerable populations in the state. So once again, we say, go back to the drawing board. Illinois legislators, you must respond to the call of the people. Illinois is in the northern part of the country. It needs to be a leader. Let's have the courage to find revenue solutions to the challenges that we face as a people. We will not tolerate moving the clock backwards. We will not tolerate the gains, the advances being set back that people have made through much struggle. Illinois needs to be a leader. Now is the time for leaders to step forward and do the courageous thing. Back to the drawing board. Let's look at revenues and how we keep Illinois a leader in the country. Thank you so much.
So I want to also bring up Cook County Clerk David Orr, because there is an election coming in a few days, and I'd like him to encourage us to vote. So.
Okay, now that we've heard from great grassroots leaders and an amazing elected official, now it's a time for action, okay? First of all, are you ready to fight back? Yes. Are you ready to tell Governor Rauner, hell no? Yes. All right. Are you ready to turn the city around? Okay. We can do this. We can do this. Do not let people believe that we have to accept what other people tell us or those with power tell us. We can do different. The way we can do different, the way we can change things is, I want to encourage all of you that haven't yet voted, okay? When you walk out of this building, you turn right, and you go in the next building, and you can vote early right there, get it over with. That's all you have to do. You walk out the building, turn right, go in that building, go in the basement, and you can vote early. And if for any reason you can't do it today, you don't have the proper ID, whatever it is, we have flyers out there that tells you each of the early voting sites in each and every ward in the city. My friends, don't give up. Don't let the powerful tell us how to behave. Let the people who represent you, these grassroots leaders and others, let us decide the direction of our future. If we do it, our futures will be good. If not, we'll be worried. Thanks so much for the wonderful work that everybody up here today did. Let's do it. Thank you.
All right. Are we ready to go or what? Are we ready to take it to the streets? This fight that Rauner has started, for whatever reason, I don't know, but he's messing with the wrong people. Every cut Rauner makes is a cut to protect banks. Every cut that Rauner makes is a cut to protect his millionaire friends. Who's ready to organize? Are we ready to organize? I don't hear y'all. Y'all being quiet. We can't be quiet no more. These are our families and our communities that we have to protect. And by any means necessary, we have to do what it takes to protect the working class families. Ms. Anisha?
All right, so we are going to take it to those streets right now. We want to make sure that people have your signs as you head out of the temple. Make sure you grab all of your stuff. I know we have to bring a lot of stuff to survive this slight winter that we're facing. So I want you to make sure you grab all your stuff. The marshals are waiting to guide us all to the Thompson Center, where we're going to march to take our fight to Rauner. We're going to keep it moving, though, because it's a little chilly. So we're going to go to the Thompson Center, and then we're going to visit the Bank of America, because, again, we have some money to get back, right? We have our delegation of speakers are going to lead us. They're going to march through the middle here, and I encourage people to follow the banner and follow the check that we're going to deliver, because we know the real roots of this crisis, and it's not us. So they say cut back, we say. They say cut back, we say. They say cut back, we say. Let's go get them. Thank you all.